And if you do drive across the Hillsborough Bridge to or from Stratford at dawn or dusk these days, you may be treated to a spectacular display of flying acrobatics. Thousands of European starlings roost under the bridge during the winter months, and you can often see flocks of them flying high above the bridge as the sun rises and sets. About 30,000 vehicles a day cross the Hillsborough Bridge, so that's a lot of eyes on the starlings as they swoop and soar. Island Morning's Nancy Russell talked to well-known birder Dan McCaskill from Nature PEI to find out more about the starlings, and they met at the foot of the Hillsborough Bridge at dusk.
We're here at the Hillsborough Bridge because the starlings put on a show here every morning and every night. Tell me what they're doing. We're watching some are just arriving right now.
At dawn, they leave from underneath the bridge. They come in right at dusk, so they'll come in and sit on the steel underneath the bridge. What they're doing is trying to find a warmer spot. So there's very large numbers. There's thousands of them here. They'll keep a little bit warmer under the bridge than they would if they were in the outside. The highest numbers that I recall here during the Christmas bird counts, which would be during the 3 weeks around Christmas, would be up in the 10,000 range.
Can you describe what a starling looks like?
It's one of the birds that's considered a blackbird, but it's got a long pointed bill, and it's smaller than the red-winged blackbird, to give you an idea, but it's plumper.
It has speckles on it?
It's got speckles. In the early spring, one of the first signs of spring is a bright yellow bill. They can mimic the sounds of other birds, so you can't just use regular sound as an identifier.
So they're tricky, too.
They can be. Well, the starlings are an exotic species, not native. They came in the 1800s to North America, get into the Maritimes somewhere in the early 1900s. You're just seeing some of the flocks starting to come in now. So they're coming in groups of anywhere 25 to 50 to 100 birds from where they were at during the day. And they'll come in and land. And they'll be swirling around the bridge here for about 15 to 20 minutes. So they all get settled down, and then they'll all go in underneath.
The starlings are flying around us right now. What are they doing? Why do they stay in a formation?
They'll move in a very large concentration, so you're only seeing a few right now. But when they start getting into the thousands, they'll actually be very synchronized in their behavior. So when one bird starts a movement, quite often the entire flock will move in that direction. And they'll also flash different colors depending on the lighting conditions. And that's a defense against some of the hawks. So the sharp-shinned hawk or merlins will sit here and come up and try and pick off starlings as their food source for the evening or for the morning. So when they move, and they all move at once, and you get waves of color from the movement, they're called murmuration, then you end up potentially distracting the raptor that's trying to attack them.
How do they know to move in that kind of a formation?
No idea. That's one for the researchers to sort out. So a lot of species do it, so some of the shorebirds do it as well. It is a distraction behavior that they're doing, and it's been genetically ingrained. So the whole flock will generally move in a large group. So you might have 1,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 birds all moving almost identically.
How did they communicate?
By sight, we think, but that's, again, one of the unknowns.
So it's a bit of a mystery.
Yes. So now we've gone from groups of 25 and 40 and 50 birds. Now you're looking at somewhere over 1,000 right now. If you look at the birds in groups of 25, then you can start to estimate what the population numbers are. And when the flock gets really big, then you start dealing with groups of 100.
Oh, some of them are popping onto the bridge. Yeah. Which bird determines where they're going to move when they're flying together?
They just react. So one bird starts the movement, and it's like a ripple effect. Like throwing a pebble in the ocean, they just respond. It's not one bird leading all the movements. It's different birds that will cause a change in the flight direction, and then other ones will react to that change.
Sunset is 4:24 this evening, and we're at
4:26.
Actually, when you listen, you get a sense of how many are under there.
A lot of voices combining there.
Yeah. There are a bunch of them up on the lamppost, and sometimes they sit along the railing of the bridge. What are they doing then?
They'll keep in clustering here, and then once the whole group is getting formed up, then they'll go in underneath.
So these are the early birds?
Yes.
I just couldn't resist. What's our time check now?
4:31.
How many do you think there are here now?
Well, we're up in the 4,000 to 5,000 range at least. And you're seeing some very large flocks popping in and out.
What are you observing with the numbers of starlings here on PEI?
There's tons of food, but the population does appear to be declining on the island.
And why is that?
We don't know. There's a lot of bird populations that are actually declining right now.
And how much have you seen the starling population decline?
There's still lots of them here now, but the numbers are less than what we were seeing back 20 years ago.
It's amazing that they don't mind the sound of the cars going over.
I expect they're immune to it. They listen to this for the whole winter roosting period. They started here 5 to 6 weeks ago. They have a spot like this in Charlottetown, and they have a large concentration of birds. It does attract people and gets them interested in nature viewing and birding in particular.
Well, when you think of the number of people who cross this bridge every day, everybody must see this show if they're driving back and forth across the bridge.
Well, especially this time of year, because this is kind of the rush hour for Charlottetown. So you can go down here at dusk if you're an evening person, or if you're an early morning person, you can be out here just before dawn.
Seems to have slowed down now.
Pretty well set in. Yeah.
Good night, starlings.
Good night, starlings. Dan McCaskill is a birder with Nature PEI, speaking with Island Morning's Nancy Russell, and I believe our producer Pat Martell actually went out to capture some video of the starlings. I believe that's posted on our CBC Prince Edward Island Facebook page. 23 minutes now past 8 o'clock.